Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? It is your girl, Lori J. I am back. It is season 2 of 38 and Dating. Did you guys miss me? I so appreciate everyone who's been asking about when the new episodes are coming out. Where are they? You guys have really kept me honest, like really. And I appreciate the love. You know, when I started this out, I just hope that somebody would listen. That if I thought the subject was interesting because it was my life, maybe other people could relate. And you guys have proved that over and beyond, this topic is really relatable and people identify. So thank you to everyone who's been listening. Please keep sharing it with friends. I had one girlfriend tell me she's going to have a 38 and dating podcast party at her house, and they're going to talk about the topics, listen to the episode. I was just blown away. So again, thank you to everyone who supported season 1. And this March, we are back. I decided to kick off season 2 with Women's History Month because we're making history here. How about that? All right, so let's just get right into season 2's first episode. It's called Dealing with the Ghosts of Boyfriends or Girlfriends Past, depending on who your partner is. So dealing with dating ghosts is basically what it is. Let's be gender neutral, right? One of the things, well, first of all, let me catch you guys up on my life. So you guys have heard all about my crazy dating stories. They've been hilarious, some tragic, some really memorable. I hope you guys enjoyed the nicknames I gave these dudes, because they deserve them all. No, I'm just kidding. The nicknames are purely just so I have a quick hand to reference them. But I have continued dating everybody. I am in a really great place in my dating life. But that doesn't mean that the dating realizations and perspectives are over. I'm still learning every single day how to date and how to date well and effectively. And as I get my realizations, I'm sharing them with you guys in real time. So continue with me on this journey. It's still dating until you're married, right? So, and then I'll have a podcast called Such and Such and Married. Maybe I won't put the age in. Or maybe I will because I'll be proud. Anyway, so dating is going well, and I have learned a lot from these crazy dating disasters. So I feel like I've been putting my lessons and my insights to good use. So far, so good. Let's keep it going. So anyway, that's me. And one of the things that I've learned recently is really how to recognize when you are letting your past affect your present. And then how do you fix that, right? So everybody has a dating past. Most people, let me not say everybody. But, all these dating disasters, y'all, and all of these crazy things that happen, whether you've fallen in love and your heart was broken, whether you had a crazy ex and you wish you had known better. I have a girlfriend of mine who was dating a woman and the girl broke into her house and, it was all kinds of chaos and drama. And I was like, why? You're so intelligent. You're an attorney. Why would you date somebody that crazy? But, you don't know the wonders of the heart. And she was in love with that girl. So anyway, but the question that I'm posing is, how can we all recognize when we're letting our past affect our present? And I've had to deal a lot with this as of late, and probably for the past year or so, I've really tried to lean into this. Have you ever had that feeling when you've been nervous or you've been scared while you're dating somebody that's great? That happened to me a lot. And because of the old guy, the 47-year-old that I dated, I feel like I was letting my past impact my present, right? So because that guy was a total dick and jerk, but thankfully so. Oh, I'm so glad for all my exes. Like Ariana Grande says, I don't even know how to say her name right. Ariana Grande, is that it? Thank you, next. Right? Okay, so because of the way that that relationship ended, it was a 9-month relationship. It ended with the guy standing me up for my birthday. I'm not even sure I told you guys that, but he stood me up on my birthday. And the worst part was just no closure. And not that I really needed closure from him in particular, but I just never experienced somebody standing me up, one, on a date at all, and two, standing me up on my birthday when we had plans. So that was real extra. And I just could not wrap my head around that. So when I started dating someone new, I always wondered, oh, what are the red flags that I should spot? That I should have spotted with the 47-year-old guy. How will I be able to tell if this guy is going to be just like him? How can I see if this guy is going to do something bogus just like the last guy? And I feel like I was always letting that negative dialogue circle around in my head. And that's what you can't do. Y'all hear me? That is what you cannot do. So I remember one time I was talking to my aunt, who I love, my Aunt C. I've talked about her before. She is Miss Happy-Go-Lucky. I love you. You're amazing. My child. That's what she calls me. But she's also a realist, and she was married for 50 years before her husband passed recently. And she told me, sweetheart, I want you to just live in the present. You're in a great place in your dating life. Just enjoy each day. Like, just savor it. And don't worry about the past or the future. And for an A-type like me, y'all, that is hoard. Hoard. For real. Like, being 38 and dating, and by the way, I had a birthday, so I'm 39, but we're going to keep it 38 and dating. Being 38 and dating, having risen to the level of success I have so quickly, it's come from hard work. It's come from really mapping out a plan and seeing it through, right? And that doesn't mean that I knew every step of the way that I would get what I had planned. It just meant that I always had a goal I was working toward. And so to just let go and just let things happen really isn't in my nature. I'm just going to be honest. It really isn't. And I'm a carefree, easygoing, free-spirited person. I promise you, I really am. But when it comes to learning from my mistakes and doing better the next time, I take that seriously, whether it's at work or in my personal life, because I always want to get better. And I'm sure some of you guys feel the same too. Amen, amen. So when my aunt told me, just enjoy the present, I was like, of course, auntie, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing just that. I promise you. But then when my heart would get stricken with panic or fear when I was dating somebody new, I had to think, why? Why? Think back to a time that you got stricken with fear or panic in a relationship. Why was that? Like, really? And I realized that it was because I was so scared of the same mistake happening to me twice. Maybe it's a part of an A-type personality. But I was scared of the same thing happening to me twice. You know that saying where they say, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think that's what I was feeling. It would be shame on me if the same thing happened to me again. But how crazy is that? Because I didn't make the 47-year-old guy do the bogus thing he did. So why was I taking that on as my mistake? There was a podcast I was listening to recently. God, I have to find it and share it in the next episode, guys. But it was from a world famous poker player named Annie. And I think the podcast was called something about billionaires, like interviewing billionaires. And if you just Google billionaires podcast, Annie, poker player, I'm sure you'll find it. But she talked about how to judge your choices. And basically, you make the best choice you can at any given time with the information that you have at that given time. And while a lot of us judge our choices based on the outcome, meaning I judged my choice in that 47-year-old guy based on the outcome, which was him being completely bogus and disappointing. Thank God he was, though. I mean, honestly, I'm so thankful for all the guys that bit the dust. Um, but I judged my choice based on the outcome instead of based on where I was at the time that I made my choice, which was he seemed like a nice guy. He had his shit together. He, was in finance, blah, blah, blah. So my choice was actually good. It's just that the outcome was bad and that had nothing to do with me. So how many times have you based your decisions or let me think of how to say this better. How many times have you judged your decisions based on the outcome instead of on what information you had at the time that you made that decision? So I think that's a really big point, right? So when we talk about how to recognize when we're letting our past affect our present, the first sign is really panic and fear. That is something that is not always caused by the person in the moment. It's probably based on some other reality that you had in the past, but it doesn't have to be your present. Two, the way you try to get over that is remember your choice was made when you had a certain amount of information at that particular time. The outcome is not your responsibility. The choice in the beginning is. And if you make a choice based on the information you have and you judge that choice, I'm sure the choice you made was likely good. Now, for all y'all over there seeing these dudes with 18 baby mamas and you saying like, oh, but he seems nice to me. Girl, bye. You knew he had 18 baby mamas and he was probably trifling. And if you're a dude, flip that, whatever. You guys get what I'm saying. But if it seems like someone is a good fit for you, you can't judge whether you made a good choice based on how that relationship ended. That is not your responsibility. All right, so I'm getting off script a little bit, you guys, and I did outline this episode. So when you feel panic, when you feel nervousness, when you feel sad, really think about where that's coming from. Is it coming from your current person or is it coming from something in your past? Live in the present today. That is the advice that my auntie gave. So I'm going to try to give these lessons in numerical fashion. So the lesson I've learned in dating up to this point is you really have to live in the present today. I think for a long time I've been nervous about the outcome of relationships. That's just me being all the way honest. Okay, and I'm going to be fully transparent here. I'm going to skip around in this episode. I have all these notes, all these numbers of lessons. I'm just going to speak from the heart. But for a long time, and it's something I battle with today, I've always worried about the outcome of a relationship and how people would perceive it in terms of how they judged me. So, for example, if a relationship didn't work, oftentimes my siblings or friends would be like, oh, you dumped that one too, huh? And sometimes it really wasn't about me dumping a guy. It was really about that wasn't a great fit, right? And even though I knew that, I would still take on the burden of judging myself for that relationship outcome. And one of the things I know about myself is that when you have to dig deep into your past to figure out why you have certain insecurities or whatnot, that's another big topic, insecurities. You have to think about not just your past relationships, but your past overall. So I encourage all of you to think back to where your insecurities started. We all have insecurities. Nobody can tell me that they are free from insecurity all the way. Even men, there's some sliver of every person that is worried about falling short in some way. And a lot of times I feel that stems from something in our childhood. So In my childhood, my parents got divorced when I was 13, but they were separated when I was 10. And because I remember the separation of their marriage so vividly, it's always been something that has created panic in my head. And I don't think I really understood it fully until I became an adult. But I have this fear of abandonment. And even bigger than that, a fear of being blindsided and then abandoned in terms of relationships. And I'll explain why. So when my parents got divorced, I did feel like I don't know if I saw it coming. I don't even know if my mom saw it coming or my dad saw it coming. They're both wonderful people. I love them to death. And their marriage didn't work for whatever reason. And again, my Aunt C has always said, you are not your parents, you know? But I feel like it came abruptly to the children, me included. And I remember thinking about how much upheaval the family had at that time, both on my dad's side and my mom's side, and how difficult it was. And I remember thinking, I don't want no parts of this. None. Zero. Zip. Mm-mm. And so what I did was I kind of steeled myself as a little kid, as like a 10-year-old. I know, sounds crazy. But I steeled myself and I vowed kind of to myself that wasn't going to happen to me. It just wasn't. But we are going to power through and this family's going to get through it together. And my family did. And my family is wonderful. And we all hang out and do great things together. And we are in such a great place today. And I'm so thankful. But I never really got over that dissolution and that, abandonment of the marriage. Now, that's what I perceive as a kid. I'm sure my parents probably feel like it was the time. But I can only speak from my perspective. And as a child, you don't really understand what goes on in a marriage and how things can lead to a marriage dissolving. All I knew is that they were together and they weren't. And, as I got on in my dating relationships, I think I looked for safety and security. And if I found that, I kind of stuck with it, whether it was fulfilling me or not. And to me, security is a big deal. I still want to feel secure in my relationship, period, point blank. If I don't feel secure, then what's the point? But it's less of a need and more of a strong desire, right? But one thing I noticed when I was dating in Atlanta as a mid 30 something, I noticed that I would date guys who I knew I wouldn't want to be with long term. But I dated them anyway because they were either really cute, fine, or they were really successful, or we just had an amazing time together. But I can think of 3, 4, 5 people. That sounds really bad when I say it out loud. I can think of 5 dudes that I dated that I was like, I know this is going nowhere, but I'm having a great time. And maybe that's what I needed to do when I ended up not being a part of my previous long-term relationship. But whatever. Have you ever dated somebody and you knew like this is going nowhere, but damn it, I'm having a great ass time? Seriously, think about it. Have you? And if we do that, I think it's okay as long as you know that you're doing that on purpose and it's not stopping you from living your life fully. If it's enhancing your life, go for it. But if you know that it's kind of putting your life in limbo or on pause in terms of what you really want, that's where it becomes a problem. Like, I used to cook for guys who I knew I didn't want to be with long term. And I would only cook for guys who I actually didn't really like that much. But for guys I really liked, I didn't want to cook for them because I felt like they would come to expect it because I was a woman. And the girls always cook. So I didn't do that because I didn't want them to think they had me, in the bag. But how backwards and warped is that? I mean, seriously. Um, so when you know that you're doing something that goes against what you truly want, I feel like you're not living your truth and you're not living in the present. And so living in the present is the big theme, right? Whether you're A type, whether you like to plan your outcomes, whether you've gotten everything that you went after in your life, you still have to live in the present, day to day, today, right? So speaking of A types, that was my second note is you got to let go of the A type control. As women, a lot of times, I feel like the way that we become successful is by leaning on our A type skills. A lot of times, unless you're a pure creative, but a lot of women are A type, myself included. And you got to let go of that. You have to let go of that. Sorry, guys, I know my papers are ruffling. I'm trying to get across all the points that I wrote out. So let go of that A type control, and that'll help you let go of the past. The third thing that can help you let go of the past and live in the present. If you're in a dating relationship right now and you are constantly low key, because I know nobody wants to admit this, low key comparing your current person to your last person or previous person, and it freaks you out, actually stop and think about whether they are really alike. I had to do this, oh God, months ago. I can't even think of when. But I had to say, you know what? Is he like the last guy? And then I started to tick off the things I thought about. I was like, nope, he surely didn't stand me up at my birthday. Nope, he is actually very kind. Nope, he is, someone who enjoys life. He's this, he's that. And I realized that all the panic and fear that I had in my heart about, the current guy that I was dating versus the last guy, it was all for naught. I was literally looking microscopically, did I say that right? Microscopically at one little thing the current guy had done and comparing it to the last guy. And then I was like, Lori, they are nothing alike. So when you're having those thoughts, really think about whether they are truly alike. People say don't compare, but no, when you get freaked out and you are concerned that you're repeating the same mistake, which again is not really your mistake because you're not responsible for the outcome. When you think that someone might be like someone else in your past that you didn't end up wanting to be with, really compare them. And you might see that they are absolutely nothing alike. In fact, they're probably opposites. So think about that. Number 4, in terms of letting go of the past, this goes back to the insecurities part that I was talking about. Write your insecurities down. Write them down. Why am I telling you to write them down? Because it's not real until you see it on paper. We all think we know what our insecurities are, but there are insecurities that we absolutely don't want to admit, even to ourselves. Like one of my insecurities, or one of my signs of insecurities, is that I know that I can sometimes be jealous. Now, my jealousy has nothing to do with, let me think of how to say this. It has nothing to do with the person I'm dating, but it has everything to do with me trying to avoid being blindsided by abandonment. So I don't mind if there are beautiful women around, if, they talk to them, all that stuff. I'm good with that. But if I see something that concerns me, I'm like, oh my God, this is the start of the end. This is the beginning of the abandonment. I'm going to be blindsided. Oh my God, I see the spark now. And my insecurity is not that I'm jealous that this woman is more gorgeous than me. I mean, there are going to be a million women that are more gorgeous than I am. tons. Um, and I might be comparing myself to them in a certain regard, but I'm not really feeling the panic because of that woman at all. I can appreciate beautiful women. I compliment beautiful women all the time. My fear comes in when I think that my dude might be tired of me and oh my god, that woman sparked his interest. Up, this is about to be over. So I go from 0 to 100 real quick. And what's funny is the guy usually never knows that I think this. And so it manifests as jealousy, but it's really because I'm trying to avoid that insecurity that I have, which is the fear of abandonment. And how's that for a cluster F? Try not to curse on here, y'all. So write your insecurities down, dig deep, go into your childhood, think about the first time you felt that insecurity, the first time in your whole life. When I did that, I realized it was in childhood when my parents got divorced. And it just manifested throughout relationships over the course of time, but it really stemmed from that. And what I did to try to counter that insecurity when I got old enough to actually do so, I became fiercely independent. Independent. You know about me. Hey, you know I got to get my little bit of ratchet in. But to combat my fear of being blindsided, I thought, hell, I'm just going to be hella independent. I don't need anybody. Sure, I would love to kick it with somebody. Great, come on, jump on board. We can hang, we can kick it, we can do all these things, but I'm not going to need you or have to depend on you. And I couldn't even say it out loud like that because I don't think that I really appreciated the fact that that's what I was doing. But I became fiercely independent. I actually loved it if people needed me. I still do love it if I can help someone do something or help someone get to a better place. It makes me feel good. But if I ever need somebody else, it is like death. Does anybody feel me on that? It's like death. Why is it like death? And I think it goes back to maybe I thought that's what created some kind of discord in my parents' marriage. I don't know. I was too young to really understand, to be honest. But needing someone and them deciding not to be there, that is like fear. Fear times 10. And what's interesting is I read a lot about fear. I read about fear and vulnerability from Brene Brown. I read about fear from Will Smith. I watch his videos on YouTube. I think he has some really great videos about fear and not living by fear. And there was one thing that actually Will Smith said in one of his videos that I loved. He said that he was kicking it with a group of guys, and I guess he told them, or they all said, hey, let's go skydiving tomorrow. And he said, yeah, of course. And he was saying that just being himself, Willie from Philly. And that night he went to sleep, and he was stricken with fear. And he was like, nah, they're not really going to do that, right? Nah, But if they do, oh my God. And I'm shortening the story, of course, and I'm probably messing it up somewhat. But he said he was stricken with fear that entire night, couldn't sleep, knots in his stomach. Woke up the next morning, knots in his stomach. Gets to the place where they all agreed to meet, thinking maybe they won't show up. Knots in his stomach. They get there, like, we're still doing this, right? And he's like, hell yeah. He gets in the plane. He is tethered to another person to jump out of that plane. And he talked about how, the lights on the plane go from, I guess, red, yellow to green. And the door opens. And he said, every moment before that door opened, where I was stricken with fear, was useless. Like, that fear was useless. It didn't help me. It didn't help me overcome anything. It didn't, prevent danger from happening. How can I be scared and fearful in my bed? That is illogical. There's no reason to be scared until I actually am at that door on the plane and it opens and I look down and see death below me. And I thought that was a really valid point. A lot of times when we are fearful of something, it worries us well before we actually need any of the worry or fear. It worries us before the fear can even be useful to prevent us from dangerous situations or to help us, not fall prey to dangerous situations. So that worry and that stress and that fear before that moment is useless. So again, I urge you guys to write down your insecurities. What are you scared of? What strikes fear in your heart when it comes to love, relationships? What is it? What's your block? I'm sharing my blocks because that's what we do on 38 and Dating. And I'm going to get some new people on here to share their own stories too. But think about it, y'all. That will be the first step in you turning your dating life around. Trust me, it's happened for me. And then when you do that, you have to remember that it's not all going to be resolved in one day. Just because you experience this epiphany about what your block is, it doesn't mean that you'll never fall prey to those same insecurities. As I've dated, I've even heard, when are you going to trust that I'm going to be here? That I'm here for this? That I'm in this? And I hate hearing that. And I'll tell you why. Because I think that I seem so self-assured and I portray being so self-assured, but there are little ways you can tell that my insecurities creep in. And for those who know me well or are close to me, they can spot it right away. And I think I'm doing such a great job of being confident, self-assured, Lori, et cetera, et cetera. But I too have my insecurities and my fears. And when I hear a question like, when are you going to trust that I am in this relationship? It makes me sad. It makes me scared because I don't want to push anyone away. But what I also realize is that there's more work to do on those insecurities and how they manifest. So really think about your insecurities, guys. Number 5, and this is going to be my big takeaway for this episode. The way to really resolve all the issues you've had in the past and how to live in the present is to really be a student and a professor of self-love. You want to be the student and the professor. You want to learn and you also want to share and preach and tell the masses. And self-love is a journey, guys. And it's a journey I'm on. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it every single day, to be honest. It has literally just brightened up my soul. Even in these last couple of weeks when I've been reading a great book on self-love. It's called The Self-Love Experiment by Shannon Kaiser. Go out and get it. I bought it years ago and I never read it. And then one day I picked it up when I was feeling particularly down for some reason. And I started reading it. And it came at the right time. And she has so many great words of advice and tips on how to do your own self-love experiment, how to experiment with creating self-love. And she shows you how she did it, the questions she asked, etc. Some of the quotes that she has in the book, I wrote them down because I want to share them with you guys because I thought they really spoke to me and they might speak to you. One of the quotes she has says, "Your desires are a part of your life plan. Running from them serves no one, least of all you." This is a really big one for me because for years and years and years, I thought that I didn't want to be married, didn't want to have kids. And in my long-term relationship, I said that. And I'm sure he probably could tell that I probably would want that one day. But It took me about a good 8 years to actually say, actually, I do want to be married. I do want to have kids. And I look at marriage as a partnership, not just married in name only or married for the sake of being married. I really would love to have a helpmate, to have a partner in this life, to build something together, to create a legacy together, to look back at the end of our lives and say, we did well. And I want children because I want them to benefit from that legacy. But for a long time, I was really scared to admit it. And even in my relationships in the past, I never wanted to admit that I wanted anything more than just kicking it, hanging, dating, whatever. And the reason was that I didn't want to be the person on the hook if the relationship went sour. Is that insane? I honestly did not want to be um, the person who was culpable or who was responsible for the relationship if it ended up breaking up. Like, oh, well, I never wanted this relationship. You're the one who pushed for it. It's your fault. Or, hey, I never wanted this marriage. You're the one that pushed for it. But now we're going to get divorced. So I was so scared of being on the hook for it that I never professed that I wanted it. And that was silly. And it actually blocked me from getting what I wanted. But all things happen for a reason. And I am where I am today because this is part of God's plan. And you are where you are today because it's part of God's plan. Believe that. And I'm so thankful for all of the lessons I've learned in the past, from all my past relationships, dating ships, situationships. So thankful. And I'm thankful that they brought me to where I am right now. But I know for sure that what Shannon Kaiser says in her book is absolutely true. Running from your desires serves no one, least of all you. So make sure that you state your desires. One of the things I talked about in last season was I used to be a passenger in my relationships instead of a co-pilot. And I'm proud to say that I'm co-piloting a lot more. I'm professing what I want a lot more. And it's scary. It is hella scary. Because you don't know if you're going to be rejected. That's one of my fears. Um, you know, you don't know if your person's going to feel the same way or kind of pull back. Another fear. But I decided that, and yes, I'm breathing hard because these are all very transparent realizations. I decided that it's worth the risk. It's worth it. If I was 32 and dating, I might not have had this realization as much. But there are some really self aware 32-year-olds and 29-year-olds and 25-year-olds who probably have gotten here a lot sooner. It just took me a while. But it's worth the risk. It is. Because what I want to do is that important. And how I want to build is that important. And I know I will. I know I will. But I have to profess it and share it and say it, regardless of the outcome. Because what? The outcome is not our responsibility. We can only live in the present. So I want you guys all to try self-love every single day. Try to work on self-love. Work on appreciating yourself, appreciating your body, not being so critical of yourself, your body, your brains, your beauty, your life. Don't feel down if you're not where you want to be right now. That's part of what's going to get you to where you're going. Appreciate all the times, the good times, the bad times, the hard times. And another thing that Shannon mentioned in her book, which also resonated with me, was let go of thinking you are off track or behind. That's a big one as you get into your late 30s and dating. Because a lot of people are like, hey, why aren't you married? Yeah, you just kick all the guys to the curb. Do you plan on having kids? You're getting a little old now. And people say this trying to be lighthearted, but it's not cute. And it does affect people. And it's affected me. And it's not cool. But that means I have more work to do to, not let those things affect me. And, guys don't get those same things a lot of times. They just don't. Because the guys can have kids till they're 70. Damn sperm. But seriously, their biological clock ticks a little differently. And I have had to let go of thinking that I'm off track or behind. And I still think that sometimes subconsciously. I'm like, ooh, I'm 39. When am I going to have these kids? And what's crazy is I've never even been a big person who wanted a ton of kids. That's never been my thing. Like, never. I think that before I leave this earth, I would like to have or like to see and experience what having a human, human person would be like. But it's not something that I've absolutely always felt like I had to do. It's something that I would like to do before my time comes to an end. And so, in order to do that, I've been doing something big that I haven't admitted publicly yet to a lot of people, but I'm freezing my eggs. And I am 2 or 3 days away from my second cycle retrieval of my eggs. And that's really because it, to me, gives me an option to have kids biologically later in life. And because I'm not married, because, I'm not sure what or when that time will come when I'll be ready to have a child. I want to give myself the option to freeze my eggs and use them at a later date. It gives me just a little breathing room. Not a lot, because, you have to decide for yourself, when you'd want to start having kids, no matter what age you are, especially if you're doing IVF or freezing your eggs. But it does give a little breathing room for me. And even if I can't carry a kid, maybe I can have somebody do that for me. So it's a great insurance policy. If anybody's considering egg freezing, I am happy to talk about it. I am going to do a podcast episode on 38 and dating and fertility, because I have a girlfriend who just recently went through it too. And she's agreed to come on and share her experience as I'll share mine. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. And I want to be one of the voices out there that talks openly and honestly about it. A few people have done that already. Myleik Teal, a podcaster who's phenomenal, and she's based in Atlanta. She's actually very good friends with several of my friends. But she spoke about it, and that really helped me feel educated about it and it made it feel not so scary to me. And Ty Beauchamp, who is one of the talent that we work with for my job, she did it at a time when it wasn't popular. And now more and more stories are coming out about how people have used IVF or egg freezing to help them have kids. I mean, I just found out today that Tamron Hall is pregnant at 48. And I was like, yay, 48. Woo, 48 and just married and having a baby. Great. Kenya Moore, I think, is 47 and has a newborn. Um, you know, it just feels like the pressure isn't so heavy to have a kid in your 30s anymore. Even though I've always felt like that pressure was right on my back. But it's good that these women are coming out and sharing their stories and the fact that they're getting pregnant, no matter what age they are. I'm loving it. It's a new time. And I think it should give us all a little breathing room about family planning, fertility, marriage, engagement, dating, etc. So let's all just shake off the nerves, know that whatever's supposed to happen will happen for us. What God has for us will not pass us by, whether you believe in God, the universe, what have you. What is meant for you in life will not pass you by. And I want you guys to know that and feel confident in that. So your homework is to do some self-love exercises. Talk positively about yourself, about your body, about your brains. Write down your insecurities so you can confront them and face them and be aware of them. And live in the present, y'all. I know I had a lot of lessons and I probably jumped around, but if there are 3 big takeaways, those are the ones I want you to remember. All right, y'all, that's it for this 38 and dating. I'll come back next time and talk about fertility as I go and get my eggs retrieved, and stored. Told my mom she has some grand eggs in the freezer. Told my dad that too. They get a kick out of that. So anyway, until the next time, everybody, I hope you guys liked season 2, episode 1 of 38 and dating. Please, please, please let me know your feedback. Let me know if you're happy that we're back with new podcast episodes, and I will see you every week on Wednesdays when I release these in the evening. So have a great week, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.